On today's show, Serbia falls to Team USA in blowout fashion. We're going to talk about Summer League Game 3 because we didn't get a chance yesterday. And then the best playoff games of the Jokic era. Stay tuned. Oh, baby. Feel so rested.
Home again, Jimmy.
Although my
Jig.
shower this morning just a little sad.
Mine's inferior.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR show. I'll give it to you. That sounds about right here. We are back in the Toyota Lounge. You guys know we love being here. Driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. It feels like the real off season is here today.
Oh, we're in the dog days.
This today, because like there's the epilogue to the postseason, which is the draft and free agency and summer league.
Yeah.
But the moment you touch down from Vegas,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is the deep off season, and that's where we are. But we got a great show for you nonetheless, because Team USA played Serbia. Lots to talk about. Mentioned it all at the top. Over here, Brennan Votes in the house.
Fun game for a period in time. For a moment.
I think for two quarters.
half.
Yeah, for a half.
For a half, yeah.
For a half. And I'll save the rest of my takes.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
And then over here, D-Line Co.
That's right, guys. I crapped out.
Definitely did.
Well, quite know what that
you
means.
busted for sure.
We're not doing
Guys,
phrasing anymore? or-
We're not doing phrasing, actually, although we are just going to keep a close-up on D-Line. There we go. Guys, we are now in the wake of two Serbia games, one against Australia, which they dropped. That one was the weird one because it felt like that one was the one that Serbia was... It didn't feel like they were trying. Also, Coach Pesic, what's going on? Serbian Basketball Federation, you know I love him. You know they're our guys, that Serbian Basketball Federation. How do you do a back-to-back in an exhibition?
That's a really good point.
You have like 4 weeks to lead up to this, and
That's a
they're like,
really
what if we
good
put
point.
2 games in a row?
Hadn't
And
thought
the-
of it like that.
And the second one is Team USA, by the way. So they have 2 of the games. We're really mostly going to talk about the Serbia-USA one. USA absolutely blows the doors off of Team Serbia in the second half. But at the end of the first quarter, it was a very close game. It really, at halftime, it was something of a close game. So, Vote, I'll start with you. You watched it. We were talking with each other. What'd you think?
Well, my first note was that the first 2 quarters, would you say that was at least 90%? It was, dare I say, near 100%. Both
Yeah.
teams were really going at it, I thought, in the first 2 quarters. To the point where I actually thought briefly that it was an exhibition game. So that was interesting. I really appreciated that, actually. And I felt like we got a decent look. Now, Serbia missing a couple of important players. It is still an exhibition all the same. But I thought both teams were playing really, really hard. The second thing I noticed in the first half was how vocal Jokic was. And
Jokel.
they were making a big point on the broadcast to show us that, I thought. And perhaps that's more often the case than we may think. But he was really vocal on defense in particular. And I thought really looked engaged and like the leader of the team.
That's an interesting note.
Where I do think there are past matches where we've watched games where we've watched Jokic play and he's looked more like just part of the team with Team Serbia. And I felt he looked like the leader out there today.
Do you agree with him, D-Line? Did he look like a leader?
Well, I mean, partially because the captain wasn't on the Bogey wasn't.
Bogey's
a good point, Eric.
Wasn't on the floor. He was very vocal. Yeah, that game was interesting, and it ended the second Steph Curry hit that 4-point play. That was the end of the game. Like, there was like cool stuff to see. I did like how Serbia was fighting hard, and they were leading for some time, but it ended in the way where you're like, all right, okay, we get it, USA.
The second half was so you were more. The second half to you is by far more like meaningful to you.
Well,
what
it
you
wasn't.
take away.
It wasn't that it was meaningful, but it just sort of like there's like I think you used the word waves. Like the U.S. just attacks you wave after wave after wave after wave, and it's not. You can. A team like Serbia can like keep up for a while, but then the bench of the U.S. is like has Jason Tatum is on the bench, and like it's like Devin Booker's on the bench, like all these players. So I actually walked away from this knowing that it wasn't like a full strength effort from everybody, but also feeling like a little bit like, oh man, like this competition's going to suck.
The USA are obviously, and we've known this, the best side in this tournament by quite a large margin. And I do think, look, in the 3-point kind of world and era, like any single team, I do think virtually can beat any single team when you get to like the top of the top. But it's going to take a near perfect effort, and it's going to take hitting a lot of threes to beat a team like USA, which, by the way, I think is gelling relatively quickly, all things considered. They seem to have figured out how they want to play together, or at least it's not looking quite as sloppy as you would hope if you were rooting against them, if you were a Team Serbia or a Team Serbia fan. There's something to this is a really, really, really good roster. And then also Bam Adebayo was awesome today, which was
knocking down threes.
I felt like of all the things, like Ant and Steph go off, and you're like, yeah, that's gonna happen. Yep. Bam hit a few shots where I thought, all right, that's tough. That's tough.
So I was pressing you on this, but it's one of my big takeaways from the game as well, is that Team USA, I mean, we've been talking about it all along, they just look so good.
Yeah.
And I've watched Team USA. People don't know this. I was really into Team USA. I think I brought it up one time on the show. I used to really be into it. I've seen the various iterations. There's always been an obvious Achilles heel. Now it's usually like as big of an Achilles heel as it can be. You still look at it and go, yeah, but the margin for error is so wide that, but at least there was a thing where it was like, all right, but you know where they're weak. They're weak here, and you just got to do this. This team, I don't know what it is. I really don't. I don't think they have a single one. I mean, the only Achilles heel they have is hubris or not playing together or this or that. But like
Tatum, but there's not much.
But there's not really anything in this team. They rebound well. They shoot well. They play in transition well. They're super athletes. They defend like crazy. And that's what stood out to me tonight as I was watching today. And as I'm watching the game, defense on Jokic specifically, because there is this thing you want to tell yourself of like, yeah, but Jokic can go out there and just have himself a night, against anyone. And you look at it and you go, I actually like when Embiid's out there on him. Like, that's the best matchup. But when they throw Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis, that might be the best duo. Like, when you think about the Rui adjustment, that might be the best Rui adjustment there is.
Unless you're playing, Team France with Wemby and Gobert. But you know what? Jokic didn't struggle so much in that one.
No, he crushed those two.
Which maybe he would do the same here. Like, maybe there is something to do, but I don't know.
But no, I agree. I think if you could handpick two players for that dynamic, these two are at least in your top 4. And as a pairing, it's a lot. And Anthony Davis has been really good on this team.
Yeah.
No surprise. Like,
he's a great player.
He's a great player. And then there's so much talent. But also, like, his role, it isn't just LeBron and just AD, and AD, but go be our second best option and then guard Jokic. It's he gets to be a part of the quite literally the best roster assembled in the world, and his 5 blocks when he gets to be out there with a guy like Bam, not surprising and impressive.
I still think Anthony Davis is his toughest matchup. The thing is Anthony Davis is no matchup for him without a second person. Like, that's how good Jokic is.
I know. I love that Jokic's best matchup is 2 guys always.
That's what it is, yeah. But the best one of those, maybe it's Wemby. Actually, no, I think it's still Anthony Davis as one of the 2 guys. But Bam is obviously a great one. So I just look at that and I go, it's so hard to imagine, for me at least, it's so hard to imagine Serbia beating Team USA. Anything's happening. Anything's possible.
No, but
it's true.
It's...
But I mean, when you talk about it, it's not like, man, they could do it. You look at it and you go like, I can't picture it. So I gotta hope for a thing I can't actually envision.
I know. For me, I'm just like, oh man, I was so excited for this Olympics, and now it's like, okay.
I mean, look, you could hit a lot of threes, you could catch an Embiid disaster class, but I think waves is the right way to put it because this is a super, super complete roster. It's actually not just the top heavy thing, and they can just keep throwing. Like, all right, we held our own in this stint. Well, here comes Anthony Edwards or whatever, and it's just good luck.
Well, here's the other thing I think. They're going to play each other as many as 3 times. Next time they play each other will be in like 10 days, less than that, I think, when they face off for the first game of pool play. Even in that game, it's important for both teams to win. But I think that Serbia and the U.S. probably... Well, I don't think the U.S. does this. I think they just play their game every single game. But I think that Serbia may or may not choose to show their hand in such a game. Like, it still feels like a regular season game where you might meet the team in the playoffs, so you don't want to go all out or show them everything. But if they do meet in the final time, that would obviously be for all the marbles. I think that Serbia knows that they only have one bullet against Team USA. Serbia doesn't even think, oh, we beat them 6 times in a row or 3 times. Like, I don't think they beat them 2 times. I think one time, maybe one time is all you could hope for. And so there is a level of it, even in an exhibition game, not featuring Bogdanovic, Milutinov, and some of the other guys. It's like, yeah, this game kind of went the way I thought. And I am encouraged by how much they were able to hang early on, because that part, look, Team USA took this game very seriously. This was actually a pretty intense game for an exhibition. That or Australia game, I thought it was so not intense. But this one was.
Oh, that's right. And obviously this is base layer analysis, but sometimes it can be this simple. Well, some of it can be. The 3-point shooting was where I thought like they could hang around, but I thought eventually them not being able to knock down the open threes they were generating, it just added up.
That's their weakness, I think.
And then USA got hot. Steph was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, he was. He scored the first, 9 points for the USA?
Well, Steph is awesome. This team has a lot of awesome.
No, I know, but I mean,
I'm not undermining
I'm
you.
saying it's there are so many good players on this team. It is hard to pop and dominate the way you do as the best player.
But who can? Who do you think on this team, on Team USA, can pop like that? Because I think it's actually a little bit of a shorter list.
Steph.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I guess KD if he's healthy, but probably not.
Well, we haven't seen it yet, but probably.
maybe,
AD. Anthony Davis defensively, I think, yes, for sure.
LeBron for short stretches.
No, I think LeBron totally pops for me, man. I'm watching LeBron, and I'm just like, my God.
No, he's awesome.
And outside of that, I'm trying to think if there's guys that I expect like.
But just because when you get such a balanced effort, you don't need to drop 40 all the time like you would on your own NBA team. But I just thought Steph looked almost like NBA Steph, even on a court with so many good players. He was just at another level.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Jokic's game? First of all, what do you think of Jokic's appearance, D-line? This is a topic of the conversation.
We've been talking about it, that he's in his villain era. He also, I still think he looks like he's in good shape, which is great.
He was sprinting up and down the court.
Yeah. He started off like frisky. He started off like kind of chippy. He gave some world-class moves, like got around Embiid with ease and then blew a bunny. But he was looking really good. And then I think at a certain point he was like, okay, like we're not going to win this. And then he sort of like started to defer a little bit. But overall, like I think Jokic looks great. Like I think he looks like the Jokic that Denver Nuggets fans should be super encouraged by, seeing him at this stage of the year looking this intense and vocal and all these things that we've mentioned. But the beard's great. Keep the beard.
Yeah. The 3-point shot, again, you talk about all the great options they have for interior defense. Much like Game 7 against Minnesota, yes, some of it is exhaustion, but some of it is also like these shots just need to fall. This is part of it, right? And him going 0 for 4, he's going to need to hit some of those threes against Team USA in either group play or down the line. He's also only 6 of 19 from the floor, so it was not his most dominant performance, but I loved how emphatic everything was. I
agree.
Like he really wanted to win at least that first half. He was really vocal out there. I thought he had some great moments. Pulling down 11 boards against that group is impressive.
Yeah, he had like 4 points and 5 boards in like the first minute and a half.
But again, 2 assists, and that I think you can count a handful of open threes he generated that just weren't cashed in, and that's just all got to be part of it. Like they have to be perfect. They have to be perfect. So it's an uphill battle. But I really loved how much it looked like Jokic wanted to be out there and wanted to win that game.
Yeah, I think his intensity is very noteworthy in all of these games that we've been watching. I mean, he seems like he is playing a little angrier, a little meaner. Mm-hmm. I do think it's, as funny as it is, I do think there is something to his like new look. In a weird way, we were talking about this because in our segment, we were looking up some old Nuggets games, playoff games, and just going through highlights, trying to remember if there's any details we'd forgotten. And it's wild how young he and Murray both look. Yeah. You look at him now and you're like, the beard, it's a fuller beard. He looks older, man. He just looks older. Not old. He just now looks like the boss, whereas always before he looked like the young boss.
Every time they showed the draft night photos and the now photos of like great players, I always go, they look so different. And then I go, is it just the beard? Is it just that you grow in a grown adult
you grow
beard?
a beard, and that's how it happens.
He does look different, though. I really like it. It makes him look menacing.
I think that there's a point. Like, I think he looks more menacing because he is more menacing. You know what I mean? Like,
down.
He looks the way he is at the moment. He is more menacing, more a little angrier, it seems. And I will say the only thing about his game that concerns me is his jumper is kind of off. He had some bricks tonight from outside. Like, he was great around. His touch is what it is, but his 3-point shot, I don't know if it's just my perspective or what, but I just don't have a ton of confidence in it.
For an extended period, for the first time in his career, I would say.
Yeah.
Because usually he can be a little inconsistent in the regular season, but then he locks the F in the postseason. But right now, I'd say we're on about going a year and a half, roughly, where Jokic's 3-point shot is not where it was at his absolute peak of his no one can touch me, no one can stop me.
What do you guys think of Jokic and the Falcons?
I like that a lot. Every time Jokic interacts with one of nature's beasts, it makes me feel like he has a bigger understanding of the universe. You know?
Didn't it look right too,
dude? He's just
Some people love animals in their wildness. You know,
yeah. He likes to
I think I'm this way. Yeah, he's a tamer.
See,
he's cultivating the animal to his will.
This is how I feel about skiing and snowboarding. It's like, do I like the mountains or do I like to dominate the mountain?
Yeah,
I think Jokic likes to dominate nature.
I do think it is funny when people that like ski or snowboard are like, I just love nature. I'm like, that's a unique type of nature.
You're like nature where you just remove all the trees.
Yeah, you mow it down and go down at 60 miles per hour. How fast do you ski downhill, Kale? Not like
fastest I've ever been clocked is 67.
So, but like if you're just skiing for fun, though, I'm not saying.
It's usually about like 40
to 45 miles per hour.
He did say, just so I'll say it for him into the mic, fastest he's ever been clocked is 67.
Yeah.
That's pretty fast. I can run that fast, I think.
Yeah,
I would definitely at least walk that fast.
Jokic with the Falcon, it was an almost nearly disturbing amount of focus. It was insane. He was so locked in on developing a connection in this really short window with that animal.
He's like Dr. Doolittle over here.
Dude, his eyes were... I don't think I've ever really seen him focus like that.
Yokes kind of feels like he's always hamming something up a little bit, like he's leading into the part. But I think you're right. When it comes to horses or animals, there is this intense connection with nature, but it is also let's work together. I'm getting you to my will, this falcon.
Dude,
he saw them how he had how they had the falcons, and he's like, I want this command as well.
You can't show weakness to a falcon. Everybody knows
You cannot. Absolutely, you'll sense it out. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to talk Summer League Game 3, what stood out to us as we watched it, sitting on
we have
the floor of the
nothing
airport.
but amazing games to discuss today.
Also, some scuttlebutt from Summer League as well, though.
Yeah.
Some scuttlebutt.
Oh, dude, scuttle that butt.
Huh. All right. I'll give you the nice gap here so the partner doesn't think that's part of the read. We're talking about Indeed, where they're driven by the search for better when it comes to hiring. However, the best way to search for a candidate, well, is not to search at all. Don't search, match, and get it done with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors. That's according to Indeed data and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. You want to get this done quickly, but you also don't want to do it more than once. You want to get it right. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. That's according to a recent Indeed survey. And of course, we got a little treat for you. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit. To get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity, just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this here podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Well, you need Indeed. I need to open up the Bet365 app right now.
That's like being hired.
There's really no, I was going to say Team USA, but there's no juice at all. I'll find something.
That is a juiceless bet.
Can I just bet on like Serbia the medal, but not necessarily the gold? I'll
definitely,
find out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. There's a lot of ways you can bet, a lot of ways you can win at Bet365 where they don't do it ordinary. They believe every sport should be epic. Right now, new customers can choose between two offers when they open an account at Bet365. Use the code DNVR365 to sign up Deposit $10, you get 2 choices. A bet and get offer placed about $5 or more, get $150 in bonus bets. Or a first bet safe net offer by placing a bet up to $1,000, and if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. You have to be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
We are back. Want to tell you guys real quick, you want to go to the Actually, you want to come to the DNVR bar this weekend. I'm just going to tell you it like this.
Yeah,
we just came back from Circa Casino and Resort. Had a great time.
I don't feel like all of me came back.
He left a piece of you in Las Vegas.
And I don't think it was my heart. I think it was like my foot.
I thought it was your dignity. But
It was his dignity. I had an awesome time. I told everybody this. I couldn't lose. I'm telling you, I couldn't lose. Nothing I could do could lose out there at Circa.
And the best thing to do when you're winning on a winning streak is to taunt the gambling gods.
Well, I'm no longer out there. I'm going to lose so bad next year. They're going to get me for this for sure.
I left my wallet on a table and went up to my room.
Yeah, so you guys had a different trip.
Yeah, we had a different trip, I guess.
Not only did I lose money, I
this
lost my
Saturday,
wallet.
here's the deal. This Saturday, come down because we have an event. Let me clarify this event so everybody knows exactly what it is. You come and hang out and just have dinner. You have lunch, you have some beers, and you hang out with your friends for 3 hours. And we'll give a raffle away. You get a raffle ticket when you come in, and if your raffle number is pulled, you win a flight and hotel room to Las Vegas to watch the Broncos take on the Raiders. It's an unbelievable deal. Unbelievable. And here's the thing. Our bar holds jam-packed. It holds like 150 people. Probably 100 people or less this weekend, which means you have like a 4% or better chance at winning this just for coming and hanging out. The odds are really, really high. So I would tell you, just come out. Even if you're just like, what's my lunch plan for Saturday? Just come out. Just make that your lunch plan, and you could win. You can also participate in our EA Sports College Football 25 tournament. I hear it's a fun game.
It's a great game, man. The last time they released a college football game, many believe it's the greatest sports game ever made. It's been 10 years, and we're back, baby. We're so back. So
How many hours did you play last night?
I don't want to say that because you're my boss, and I was almost late today.
Well, we didn't have any. Okay, there you go. That's your answer. So come on out. Check that out. It'll be really cool, and you might win a trip to Vegas, which is incredible. Game 3 happened. I thought it was kind of a boring game. To be honest, I thought of all of them, it wasn't the most compelling. Julian Strawther didn't play. Trey Alexander did. Let's talk about him first. What stood out to you about his game? Because we were so interested in what would it look like when he gets to be the kind of the main guy.
It looked like he's a guy that has an incredible shot. Like his shot is repeatable, and we've now seen it 3 games in a row. And he can get to it. He has a mid range. He has a 3-point shot. He ran the offense like okay, kind of like there's just not offense being run. Like even when they're trying, it's like not it's really just a guy coming around to curl and passing it to him outside the 3-point
By the way,
line.
real quick, so did you guys see Milwaukee lost a game where they had like 12 points or something? It was like a horrible one. I was talking to somebody with the Bucks while I was out there because I was like, I got to ask about this, whatever. And they're like, look, man, coach, we have really trying to make a strong impression. Put in like 20 plays.
Nobody
Guys
can
have
run
no
them.
idea what the hell's going on.
I was going to say, and now for the Summer League Nuggets, they're now down into the end of the bench.
Yeah, the
now,
end of the bench
and
guys. And the guys that are in the end of the bench aren't even like practicing or anything. They don't even know each other's names.
I've got a strong feeling like 90% of the plays they had involved, by the way, were just Julian Strawther, and he's not out there.
So I say all that to say, like, nobody notices anybody else's summer league team. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'll tell you players that have stood out. But if I told you like what team really just impressed you, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? But the truth is, there's a lot of teams that have these like first time summer league coach, and they don't know what they're doing. And I'm not saying that's Munns. I'm just saying I thought Trey Alexander did not do a great job point guarding in this game. And that's one of the things I wanted to see. But I just also I don't put that much into that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like his shot is what I noticed. Like he's got a great shot, which is very valuable. Whether or not he can be a competent one and actually run the offense, still completely undecided. We would never learn that from Summer League in the first place. But he has a good handle. I would say I'll say that. Like that's kind of the foundation, obviously, of being able to run an offense. But he has a great handle. Yeah, but I like what I'm.
Very good.
The more we're now 3 games into the Trey Alexander experience, and I'm impressed each time.
So, okay, so you sound like, because for me this one was a little bit of I would say a glass of warm water. It wasn't a glass of cold water. It was a glass of warm water because it was one of the things I wanted to see was how many shots did he get up. He didn't get up as many as I was kind of thinking he could. The shot does look great. I put on the timeline that I think his shot looks effortless.
Yeah.
I thought Bol had a bit of an effortless shot too, where like it almost feels like he's doing everything.
Everything
in slow
Bol
motion.
does is effortless.
That's so true. But there are some guys, there's some guys that like their shot is very rigid. It's like jump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
his is just like such a like.
Oh, it's so fluid.
It's almost like
Yeah.
he's on Mars. You know,
Yeah.
just kind of like floating the
I was
ball
thinking
towards the
same
rim.
thing.
I was like, dude, is this guy on Mars right now?
It's a Martian.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't.
Great nickname.
So great.
I think all of the things we were sort of talking about with the other players who weren't performing at their
I
best
like the Martian.
apply to him
think
here.
they
Like
have
it was
more
just less
gravity.
of a position to succeed than the other games. But I don't think he did anything to lose any stock or dissuade what people are buying so far. There is going to be a fun part where we have to like sort of scale these expectations now because he has passed Summer League with flying colors
Yeah.
and
Just
done
like
everything
Hunter
he
did
can
last
as
year.
far as the Alexander Pickett conversation. The NBA is a different, right? So what does it all look like at the next level? I actually do think we should slow our roll a bit. It is all still to be seen.
Yeah.
But he has passed Summer League for me with flying colors.
Well,
and
to get some of the scuttlebutt here, just like a little one.
Dude.
You know,
So much scuttlebutt today.
Trey Alexander is a uniting force, you guys. Excites everybody.
Okay.
This is one that like everybody in the organization is very excited about.
he's going to
So
save the Nuggets.
He might bring everybody back to the tip. But that is one thing that like I think there's real momentum with him with the team. Nothing crazy. I'm not saying he's going to play this year or any of that, but I think this is one where they're like, you know, he's doing all the stuff that's why we wanted him. Is he's doing all that stuff, and whenever a player does the stuff that you wanted to see him do,
Yeah.
it's really good. And I'm with you. The shot to me is line item number one, and really the only one that I would put in the. That's like if you tiered off the things that he has shown you. Shooting is S tier.
Yep.
Everything else is kind of in somewhere below that, but it's
Yep.
like, yeah, but shooting's so important. And he's really good at it.
Yep. And again, for me, it's handle also. Whether or not that means he's
A tier.
a primary ball handler or just somebody that can get a shot off of his own creation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like for me, looking at where we are coming out of Summer League now, as far as the point guards are concerned, it's like we don't have a backup point guard. The Nuggets
Yeah.
don't have one. They still have to make some kind of deal. Like
And I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot, but again, more of how I expect the Westbrook thing to play out, whatever should happen. You know, the Nuggets, and this has always been the case, by the way. Jeff Schwartz is the agent for Russell Westbrook. Very powerful agent. One of the most powerful agents in all of basketball. And XL Management just has a lot of power as an agency. I mean, we always think about Clutch and the power that they have. Jeff Schwartz, same thing, and he's got a power guy here in Russell Westbrook. So the Clippers know he's done there. And they want to try to, rather than pay off his contract and just buy him out, rather than do that, they would rather trade him, even if they have to include a small asset. You know, that's the whole thing. Can we just, we could throw in a late second or something and get rid of him, and some other team buys him out. Some other team who has some money to spend takes on Russell Westbrook, gets a second-round pick out of it, and then they are the one that paid the money to get rid of him. So they're trying to work out that kind of deal. But here's the problem. Can they find a partner for that? A team that wants to do that, take on a guy and buy out, they're not in a rush. You know, it's not like, we're in a rush to get a second-round pick that's later. So there's no urgency on that end. And then on top of that, the Clippers want to find somebody that maybe somebody actually is more interested. You know, don't have to give us much of anything. We actually just want Russell Westbrook. The problem is Westbrook, it sure seems, wants to come to Denver and be in Denver. And if you have a power agent in Jeff Schwartz and you're a team like, let's just say the Charlotte Hornets, we'll just use a random team. And they're like, we could use him, though. Like, this makes sense. He doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
And so there is this thing of where the Clippers want to find a team to take him.
Right.
But Jeff Schwartz wants to scare everyone away from taking him.
Bronny James style.
Bronny James style. But this is why there's a holdoff. Denver wants to call the Clippers his bluff. The Clippers want to call the Jeff Schwartz's bluff. Jeff Schwartz wants to call the Clippers. Like, there's all of these different layers of it, and it's part of why the thing is a little bit hamstrung. So those are all the dynamics that I think are important to this. Well, the only other one dynamic I'll say is you have to imagine, if you just game theory this out, you have to imagine that Russell Westbrook has a preference for how this plays out as well. If you get bought out of your contract, you get paid. You sign a new contract, you get double paid.
Right.
Like, so there is a, rather than just get a straight trade, even if you would say, you know what, F it, Pickett. Just give him Pickett. And like, that's like a win, actually, to get rid of. And then he comes back. But even Westbrook, and I imagine, again, powerful agent Jeff Schwartz probably looks at that and goes, yeah, that's the second best option.
But you outlined who's in a rush and who isn't. And the waiting game puts the biggest strain on Denver right now, who doesn't have a plan outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm just
sure.
saying it's not that. Even if it eventually happens,
I don't know if they
it's just,
don't have a plan outside
Well,
of that.
I shouldn't
but,
say that.
yeah.
I shouldn't. On the roster. That.
Oh, yeah, on the roster.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that entirely. As it stands, they do not have a good plan in place. If that doesn't play out, I mean, Trey Alexander has looked great, but I don't think anyone really seriously wants to go.
You cannot.
Your two-way guys.
You can't meet. Yeah, you can't seriously be.
You
Like,
would love for him to have an opportunity to win that over whoever it is that is here. Like, if he outplays or he gets an
you
opportunity.
want Trey Alexander to get minutes like Strother got minutes before he got hurt last year.
Right. He's and almost think of him as like a second-round pick pipeline since you don't have those anymore. But I do. Is Tyus Jones still out there, man? Because
I don't believe so. Didn't he just sign? I believe he just did.
the longer we wait,
I didn't sleep for the last
longer we
several days,
wait.
so I'm not sure that
I think he's still out there, man. I'm just pointing that out.
There you go. Clippers interested. Let's the other thing about the other guys is Pickett. I think there are guys where, like, Zeke Naji had a bad second summer league, and it wasn't. You didn't pull the plug on it. It's not his environment. Circumstances, he can grow this or that. I don't think that's this situation.
It's not.
I think this situation is more definitive.
Yep.
And I think it is more definitive for a couple reasons. One, obviously, Pickett just looks like he is below the quality of player that, you know, can be an NBA player, physical tools and this or that. But I think that there's also, I mean, you watch the guy, he is clearly broken. And you even watch him in that last game. You know, we've seen a handful of times when a player is going through, like even Klay Thompson this last year, there was a moment in time where Klay Thompson looked broken. He was like 5 games in a row, could not hit the rim, you know, like he was that off. And he talked about all the stuff he was going through. He was very open about that. I see Pickett, and even talking to people, that's where Pickett is right now.
Yeah.
Pickett is not even his regular self, which might have been below the floor of what, you know, could make him a prospect. But he is below that. Yeah. No confidence. Absolutely spiraling, and I think kind of broken just as a player, and you know, unsure of, uncomfortable with where he is in his space, and so I look at that and I go, this isn't a guy that it's like, all right, take a breather, go to the G League. I just think it's done, like it's expired, and now the question becomes, how does Denver handle him moving forward?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, is that there are Zeke Naji comps here, and that I do feel like over a span of 2 years, we watched someone's confidence really break, you know? I think with both of them, respectively, to be honest. So, it is a cheap contract that he's on. Yeah. And there were a few teams in last week and over the weekend that did sign some of their second-round picks to long, cheap deals.
I mean, it's actually super common in this. Again, there's a new paradigm that we're all kind of getting used to, so it's not wild. There are a lot of players that are signed to contracts similar to Pickett's that will never play in the NBA.
Right, but having them on your roster makes sense from a cap sheet standpoint.
Because with the new salary cap, trades just become more important, and you're going to have pieces to be able to trade.
So is there any way you can still view Pickett as like a flyer redraft guy?
No, I don't. I think he's even below that, and that's why. I mean, look, Pickett was always an old, undersized, slow point guard coming in, so you had to really like the passing, which I do, and Calvin Booth obviously did, and you have to think like, hey, there's a chance that the game will lend itself to that. That is gone. He's now an old player in this, and I don't think any team is talking themselves into it. Doesn't mean he's not tradable. What I expect to be a possibility, and it might not happen this year. It might just be that the Nuggets eat this year and then buy him out in the offseason next year, and it's like, well, that was a bummer. But what I think the Nuggets will look to explore is teams that are in the tax or paying the luxury tax in some capacity, and they also have a 15th guy on the roster, and you're looking at teams like Phoenix, like Boston, like maybe even the Clippers, ironically enough. Like, there are teams that have a guy that's making $3 million and Pickett's making $1.5 million, and they look at that and they go, okay, our guy's not going to play, their guy's not going to play, but we're paying $2 for every dollar we spend. So that extra $1.5 million is actually costing us $3 million.
Yep.
And if we just swapped our end of bench guys' contracts, even though we don't plan to play them, we just swap them, then we save $3 million, even though we only got rid of $1.5 million. And sometimes it goes up even more than that. We have a guy on a 2-year contract and he's making $5 million. Can we switch that with Denver? And now all of a sudden we get below this mark. So those are the types of things I look at. And if Pickett is to get traded, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened to be that type of deal. Some team in the tax where you just take on the player that's, and everyone will get excited. It'll be like, oh my God, we got Jordan Walsh. Like, oh, that's awesome. I love that guy. It's like, yeah, that's their Pickett. So now we have him, but that's how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, like the one, just to go back to what you were saying about Zeke Naji and Jalen Pickett, it's like Zeke Naji looked bad in year 2 because he was quote unquote exploring his game. He was doing things that he wouldn't typically do, and Pickett is playing his regular role and looking.
I strongly disagree with that.
What do you mean?
I mean, I've talked about this before, but the Nuggets are having him run high pick and roll. He's not fast.
I mean, but he's at least like handling the ball, initiating offense. Here's
another reason why I disagree. I believe pretty strongly, again, informed opinion, that Zeke Naji never really connected with the team.
Sure.
Jalen Pickett never really connected with the team, the coaching staff, the people there. There's a handful of guys that haven't connected. Trey Lyles, one of these guys, that haven't connected, particularly with the coaching staff, but also with the teammates. And I look at that and I go, this is part of the equation. Zeke Naji and Jalen Pickett honestly remind me a lot of each other.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, you say he was exploring his game. He's still supposed to rebound. He's still supposed to defend that year. He didn't do any of those things. And that carried over into the next year. Like, as bad as his summer league was, it was kind of Zeke Naji, it was kind of a preview of what happened to him over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, that's for sure true. But yeah, Zeke Naji started down a path of like completely losing his identity. That is something that you feel like Jalen Pickett is suffering from right now. He doesn't quite know what he's doing. It's like a bummer, man. Like,
yeah.
I keep hoping he's going to have the rebound game, and then it's like just groundhog. It's just on repeat, like the same bad game, the same bad game. Yeah, man, and like none of us are rooting for anybody to not succeed. I would love if he could figure it out. Obviously, the Denver Nuggets, he plays a position that Denver Nuggets have a need for. Even if you bring in a player like Russell Westbrook, that's an older player that plays with reckless abandon. Like, you want to make sure you have guys in the pipeline that can step in should anything happen to him, even if that happens. So, yeah, like, I don't know. The Pickett thing's a major bummer, but it's you can't lie to yourself. Yeah, you just can't lie to yourself.
This is cost of doing business, though. You know, it's like it's just how it works. There's Ishmael Kamagate was super exciting.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, he's not exciting anymore. And you just don't even think about him anymore. And I think Pickett, unfortunately, he has the contract, but Denver just has to now move it. And I just don't. It's like Kamagate to me. It's like any of those second round picks that didn't pan out. That's like, all right.
And you know,
Peter Corneli.
Totally. And you know, I mean, this then leads into a conversation about Calvin Booth and he picked Pickett, blah, blah, blah. But if you start to really evaluate and think about in aggregate what Calvin Booth has been able to accomplish via the draft, this is his 3rd draft. And you can only ever really hope to get one player out of each draft, right? Like, he's just he's giving himself more swings each year, but it's like if you get Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, and then, potentially Trey Alexander or Deron Holmes. Like,
it's actually really good if Trey hits or Deron Holmes. Yep.
It's actually very good because then, yes, you have getting one player each year out of the draft that becomes a playable asset, especially late in the draft where he's been drafting.
All right, we got to take a break. On the other side, a few more little things, news and notes from Summer League before we move on to our list. Stroll down memory lane of the best playoff games.
The listicles.
I'm just saying, like, Tyus Jones still available?
Or Micic.
Man, I don't know, man. Some choices just seem simple to me. You know what choice is simple?
What's that?
When you need to put a new roof over your home or your business, you call the good homies at, play the noise, Kale, Red Hawk Roofing. They're really cool. Like, they're very good at their jobs. They're very fun to talk to. They're cool guys to hang out with, if that means anything to you. It means something to me. You know what else means a lot to me? They're huge DNVR supporters. That's awesome. So we always talk about the local partnerships we have, and how a great way to support us is to make it mutual, support them as well. You guys have come through with Red Hawk Roofing so far, and you should know, if you don't know, and soon you will, that quality materials are their thing. Decades of experience under their belt, quick response time, Colorado's best estimators and contractors, free no obligation roof and property inspections, free in-depth photo reports for all inspections. They'll even give you a free upgrade to hail impact resistant shingles. you're supporting your local teams means also supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. Again, if you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921. Do us a favor, though, and tell them that we sent you.
And don't get it twisted. Like, they have no problem messing up your roof either if you don't call them.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll tear your roof apart.
Yeah. Just kidding. Just kidding. That's not true.
You don't know that?
No, I think that would make them the mafia.
Oh, okay.
So no, they're actually a legitimate business.
Then it's not true.
Right, okay. You know what is true? That trucks have always been part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. That read reminds me of Jokic every time. It really does. Whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the way to the world, there's a Toyota truck that's just right for you, like the all-new 2024 Tacoma and the return of the iconic 2024 Land Cruiser. Toyota offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, like the Epic 4Runner. They also have more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker. And Toyota's SUVs take command of the road and the trail so you can explore the road less traveled without sacrificing those smooth city rides in SUVs like RAV4 and Grand Highlander. Again, perfect for a city like Denver. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe in Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of the Denver Nuggets and the official vehicle of DNVR.
Last little bits, and I think this stuff made it out a little bit into the public, but, everybody wants to know about the KCP thing and how it kind of goes down, how it went down. I think Denver kind of knew the thing that worked for them, what was going to work for them and what wouldn't. I don't know that there was anything that would be offensive, and as far as offers. But I know one thing that I heard was that Dallas was very interested in him, more so than they were interested in Klay Thompson. They really wanted him, but the only way it could work, or the only way that they felt it was going to work, was with a sign and trade that ultimately Denver did not participate in and could not do, which I think is ultimately smart. Like, that would have been a horrible thing to,
you don't want to get
back an asset where it's like, yeah, but look what we got back.
know.
It's like, yeah, but you don't want to. KCP, I think, they're hoping Klay Thompson's going to be what KCP was for Denver, and I think he might be past that age to be that
Dallas
guy.
better.
So don't give them the A version. Make them go to their plan B, which ended up being Klay Thompson. So I think that was kind of an interesting little piece, of something I heard while I was out there. And then lastly, Josh Kroenke was around over the weekend, and I thought that was interesting. And just kind of asking around some different people. He's been around a lot, and again, this is a pivotal year. I think last year was exhausting. Josh Kroenke, in my experience being around the team, and Stan Kroenke as well, they're not around often, but they come in whenever it's like, at the right moments.
Yep.
And I think that whatever criticisms you have of the Kroenkes, I think that's one that is kind of an interesting one of like, sometimes the best manager is the one that just gets out of your way and lets you do the thing, but then knows when it's time to come in.
I was just thinking about the ultimate power move ever would be for Josh Kroenke to do an episode of Undercover Boss where he signs himself to the Summer League team.
Shaves the beard.
Yeah, he just shows up and they're like, "Oh, who's this old guy?" And at the end, he's like, "Oh, it's me, Josh Kroenke. I was here looking at the organization the whole time, and I'm going to buy you a Toyota."
Who would be the one that he would hate?
I think that
There's always one that's like, "We're gonna fire this guy." I had no idea he was so terrible.
I'd probably be Calvin Booth, sadly.
And then who's the one that he'd be like, "What a great story."
You don't have a microphone.
I know, I'm yelling at
Yeah, he's yelling it. I think he would look at. Probably Colin Gillespie would have gotten another shot with the Nuggets.
He's like, "You're actually so much more valuable than the company." You ever watch the show? Are you familiar with it? It's like so. Sorry, it might be somebody's favorite show. It's so corny.
It's always
But they
corny,
find the
yeah.
little shopkeep, and they're like, "I'm going to make you CFO."
You're
you have
Undercover Boss.
You have that hard working effort that we just means everything to our base.
Josh, make it happen. Undercover Boss on the
That'd
Summer
actually
League
be great.
squad.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know what we feel compelled to give the Kroenkes credit for this, for whatever. I don't know about that framing, but He is around.
What framing? Hold on. What framing?
The exact framing you just rolled out.
What was that?
That they're not around, but they know how to be around at the right times.
I didn't say they know how to be around. I said this is their MO. Their MO is to be out of the way, but when they feel like, okay, we need to kind of make...
Okay.
So that's my point, is they're not people that are there every day like, what's the decision? What's the decision? What's the decision? They kind of step back, and then they look and they go, okay, hold on, I'm not sure we're going the right direction. And then they get intense, but then they step out again.
Okay.
It might be a moment where, I'm just, again, speculating here, but it might be a moment where it's like, okay, let's all come here.
I agree. It does feel like he's around right now a lot. I was kind of surprised to see him at Summer League and just very close to Calvin Booth the whole time.
They usually come for like a game, I feel.
That's right. Yeah.
Cronky's got a weird beard. Why is he around?
Why? But they. I mean, look.
Everyone's like Mrs. Featherbottom, where everyone's just pretending they don't know it's Josh. And they're like, wow. Oh.
It does feel like the support systems are bending and swaying. Now, I don't think they've broken yet, but it does feel a little bit like, hang on, what direction is this thing going in?
Totally.
How close are we to collapse?
Landlord shows up like, here's some parties have been going on around here.
Yeah, exactly. So what have we been doing in the summers exactly? So maybe there is something to that.
And you pair that with the note Michael Malone told us the other day, where it's like, last year I wasn't around at Summer League, but this year I am. There is a sense of like the Nuggets org coming together to be like, hey, we need to figure out what direction we're doing, what we're doing here, and make sure everything's running tightly. So kind of an interesting one. Take it for what you will. All right, guys, here at DNVR this week, we've been doing Rank Week. It's kind of a new tradition here at ALLCITY. All the markets are doing it. Last year, we ranked the 25 most important athletes in Denver sports history. A lot of fun, a lot of controversy.
Yeah, that one almost ended the company.
Almost ended the company. Here's what's funny. The list we put out is no one's list.
I know.
It is.
Everyone's mad.
Everyone's mad. So it's like, if you're mad, guess what? You would have fit in perfectly.
Dude, nothing. Oh, man. It just... You never know what it's like to be part of one of these things, like these lists you get mad at until you're part of one. You're like, bro, I know. Like, everyone's
Joke's
like,
on you. I hate my own list.
yeah. Everyone's just like people are like, oh, that's number 15. Be better. And you're like, bro, I don't know what to tell you. AJ said no.
It's like, you're just comparing things that are like impossible to compare, especially when they're all good. Yeah. They're all great. You're like, were you happier after game 4 of this or game 7 of that?
This one specifically,
I was perfectly happy both times.
This one specifically, this list, best game means whatever you want it to mean. Yeah. You're like, oh, I met my dad that day. Or whatever. It was a great game. Or whatever. It's just
100%.
We had to like go between like, all right, how much are we weighting the idea of the outcome? Like, if they won a championship, does that make it like automatically a top game? And we said no.
We said no, but a lot of people say yes. Like, a lot of people are just like, this game was more important than that. And you could argue, well, which one would you want to sit down to rewatch the more? Totally. You know, this one. And again, no right or wrong answer. It's supposed to just be a fun exercise. I love our top 10, though. But I wanted to today, for Rank Week, talk about the best games in playoff history of the Jokic era. Tomorrow, we'll probably do some regular season.
Basically, the top
throwback.
10 of our actual list.
It kind of actually is. And I'm just going to go in chronological order here, guys. The first great playoff game of the Jokic era was Game 2 against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep. We scored 40.
Who?
Was it the Jokic one?
No, really. Interesting that you forgot the importance and significance of this game.
Is that the one where Jamal Murray came back?
Yes. So what happens in Game 1, the Nuggets are playing the lowly Spurs, who were just like, somebody had to make it into the playoffs in that spot, and it was them. And it was Denver's first time. So you're like, all right. Everyone at the time was saying Jokic's going to get exposed in the playoffs. Yep. The Nuggets are going to get exposed.
Do you know who was saying that?
Who?
Nick Wright.
Oh, Nick Wright was, you're right, Fraud City. He was saying that. And then you get to Game 1 and you're like, we're going to show them. Absolutely dominated by this lowly Spurs team. Derek White goes ham. And we're like, oh my God, we're frauds. It's the worst feeling of all.
We're like, is Nick Wright?
Is Nick Wright?
The Derek White stuff started early. The hate respect.
Oh,
please
man.
stop ruining my life,
well,
Derek
Will
White.
Barton reached an all-time low because he just absolutely, he get injured like late in the year and then comes back, and he just is absolutely horrible in those first 2 games. Second half, they looked the exact same. It was 6 quarters where every quarter, every minute felt the exact same. Where like Denver can't get any stops and they look like ass on offense. And then coming out in the third quarter, Jamal Murray finally, it was the real first like playoff Murray flurry, and he just starts going off. What's crazy is I went back and looked up, how many points do you think he had that game? Do you remember him going off? I think it was like 17 in the third or something.
Did he have like 25?
It's like 24 points.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was like 35, 38.
Right, but like remind your mind that he didn't play well the whole rest of the game.
Yeah, he just had a moment. But I don't think we were always talk about what if the Conley shot falls in the bubble or these sliding doors. I actually think Game 2 is the biggest sliding doors. You go to the playoffs and you get the doors blown off of you at home 2 times in a row by
blow your sliding
Jakob
doors
Poeltl.
off.
You'd be like, okay, the Nuggets are frauds, and we're going to have to swallow a tough
both
pill.
Murray and Malone would have been out of here.
I think I would have been out of here.
Because Murray's lows in that series were
They were
like,
so bad.
It was like what Ant was doing to Murray in the Wolves series, like Derek White was doing that to him. Which, you know what?
Derek White. I know,
Second best player on a championship team.
I was just going to say, like, he's on the USA team ahead of the finals MVP.
So that game was phenomenal.
Please be a Nugget one day, dude.
I'm trying to get the actual number here for. Actually, Jamal Murray, no, he only had 1 in the third quarter.
Okay.
It was all fourth. He had
It was the fourth,
Oh
yeah.
my God, he had 24 points. He had 21 in the fourth quarter.
That was the thing. It was the fourth.
21 in the fourth quarter. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That tells you how bad he was the rest of the game. Game 6, Jokic was absolutely dominant.
That's
We
what I
always
was thinking.
talk
That's
about
the
this one.
40-pointer.
That was the 49-pointer or 43-pointer. At that time, it was a career high. He went off, but they blow the game, so it kind of doesn't make it. And then Game 3 against the Blazers in the next round is the 4 OT game.
My God.
To me, it's still one of the few games that
I
I
can't
just
believe we
remember.
didn't put that on the list. Because they lost.
Because they lost,
Right,
I know.
right.
But that game had everything. It had clutch plays. It was intense. It felt enormous. And when I talked to Michael Malone, this was a game, because I asked Michael Malone about all these games. I just wanted to get his. He loved this game. He loved this one. It was one of the first ones he mentioned. And then he goes, but you know what game should be on the list? Game 4. It wasn't because it didn't belong. But he was like, Game 4, because we come back. We only had a 36-hour rest after 4 overtimes. And we come back. Everybody counted us out. And we play. And it really was impressive.
It is funny to think about what makes it the best for the people involved, like from a coach's perspective, and how that might differ, by the way, from a player's perspective, just because maybe at times you have longer or shorter views on like what success means and what could happen down the line and what's important to you. But the Spurs, Malone thinks about that Spurs series a lot. I got that sense from that conversation.
Well, you know what else he brought up when we were talking about the Spurs series? He brought up Game 7 where Popovich didn't foul at the end. He was
just no moss.
Yeah, just no moss. Throw the towel. He brought that part up. But that 4 OT game, Eric, that one, there were these little check marks along the way where you knew Yoke was good. Game 82, even though they lost, he was great. We just talked about 4 overtime, we talked about that Game 6 where like, man, he could score 50 in a playoffs probably. But the Blazers game to me was where I was like, that's the toughest SOB. 4 overtimes and still going.
That's the thing. Like the narrative around Jokic leading up to that was that because he was from Europe, and the where you start is he's soft
and
he's fat,
not in shape,
and he's not in shape, and he drinks Coke and this and that, and he's skinny, he's fat, blah blah blah, and then you get to a game like that where he plays an hour straight on the court at a very high level in what was seemingly a do or die game, and you're just like, this guy is a machine, like. He might be a chubby machine. Yeah. Jokic, like, really, I mean, that was such a coming out party for both Murray and Jokic that year.
Yeah. Unbelievable game. If you go to the next year, 2020, to me, has by far the most crazy great games. The bubble. Game number 1 against the Jazz, people forget, Donovan Mitchell had 57 points, but the Nuggets won that one. They took a 1-0 lead, but he had 57 in that game. I think Murray had like 36 or something. He had a really good showing. And the Nuggets win, and that's when Jamal takes the picture of Mitchell, remember, by himself in the bubble. And he's like, now I have to see him. Game 4, Mitchell has 51, Murray has 50. This was the dueling 50 pieces, and the Nuggets lost. And that was the one where coming out of the darkness, and they still come up just 2 points short in a game, and you're thinking like, man, well, at least they gave us a good game. Murray had 50. There was like some little kernels of positivity, but you're still staring at they're going to lose to the Jazz in 5 games. But then you go on to Game 5. That's the spinning layup around Gobert.
Yep.
And it's a Murray flurry in the clutch. This was a close game, a tight game, and Murray goes for 16 points in the fourth quarter to save the Nuggets this season. From games 5, 6, and 7, 4, 5, 6, and 7 from Murray were unbelievable. Probably the best 4-game stretch of his entire career.
It was the beginning of
Prior to
a level up. I mean,
maybe even including
prior to last postseason, he had earned the playoff riser title
Bubble title.
Bubble tie too, in large part because it was literally true, points per game wise, but also because he was so spectacular in that one run. But before the bubble, it was still a bit inconsistent. Like that Spurs series we were just talking about, it was still, how can this guy be a second option?
Yeah.
And the Utah series was the first time where he gave us a really, really strong answer, an affirmative answer.
I think Game 6 was my favorite. We were talking about this in terms of best game versus, meaning we ended up going with the Jazz Game 7 on our list. But to be honest with you,
I wanted to get Jazz Game 5. I mean,
6. 6 is the
Clippers Game 5.
So, and it was just tough. Like, at the end of the day, what do you end up picking? NBA, it's almost like you're picking the series more than you're just picking an individual game. But for me, it was Game 6 because that was after the player strike.
Yep.
Then you come back, Murray scores, drops 50 points. It was just and then he gives the post-game interview. It was just an epic game, an epic moment. And even just pushing it to 7 at the time felt like we were back from the dead. It was just like, oh my God, I thought this was the darkest timeline, and now the brightest timeline is back on the table. And oh, by the way, Jamal Murray just gave one of the most emotional post-game moments that we'll ever get. And then, of course, Game 7 was absolutely epic. As much as I liked the other games more, that one is the only series Game 7 game the Nuggets had that came down to that. A final shot.
Jesus.
Yoke had to be a big boy down the stretch and hit them tough ass
hits
shots.
the game winner.
Hits the game winner. Gary Harris gets the steal. Like, there were so many big plays, and if you remember that game, that was a white knuckle from tip to close.
Tip to close.
Oh my God! I just watching that preview or the
tweet,
play. Watching our little play. Watching Torrey Craig blow that layup, and then watching Mike Conley streak down the court and hit largely an uncontested or take a largely uncontested three. Like, I watched it like 3 times. Each time I was like, oh fuck, I know that's going in.
Someone from the org was recounting that game to us at the end, and they went, and he passed it to Torrey Craig of all people. That's what I thought when I saw it.
Everybody would have been
Torrey.
No, everybody would have been so mad at Torrey if that goes the other way. But Jamal was the real scapegoat. What are you doing? He's like, I could just dribble the clock out, or throw it to Torrey Craig to get a contested layup.
Torrey's like, I think if I don't shoot this, I'm going to travel.
Yeah.
I have to.
You go into the next round, games 1 through 4, whatever. Denver wins games 2. They get blown out in the other ones. Millsap in game 5 is the one that he gets in Marcus Morris's face.
Yes.
Kind of an all-timer, and it was a phenomenal game that has it has all that stuff.
The dancing girlfriends.
That was a huge, huge game. Game 6, the Nuggets were down 18 points, and they outscore them 64-35 in the second half. They kind of go ham in that one. And then, of course, Game 7, 15-point deficit, and they just storm back in what is, in my opinion, the greatest exclamation point in the Jokic era. That close, it was like a 20-0 run that just featured so many high-profile plays. It was the greatest exclamation point.
It was incredible. I mean, just incredible. The, obviously the season where they win the title, the most meaningful season in Nuggets history. But my God, that bubble run, obviously you can discount it in so many ways. But, really, I mean, the level of basketball we saw during that stretch was something it's just such an outlier in so many ways. And it was, for Nuggets fans, like, couldn't have been better. Like, we got the best version of that, even though we didn't win.
That was, to that point, the best run in Nuggets history.
Yeah,
it felt like. I think between the
it was one game shy of their furthest, or
not their furthest, but I think I think it was like this.
So spectacular for
sure.
But
also it was, hey, we really might be right about these guys.
Totally.
And so that to me is why I say that. Before last year's run, Game 7 of the Clippers for me is my favorite Nuggets game ever.
Game 7? Because it was such a party. Like, unlike the Jazz one, which I remember, like, the exhale at the very end, and then we run downstairs. This one, like, that steal and dunk that Jeremy Grant gets, so the steal and then the dunk, that was kind of the knockout. That was like, oh my God, run downstairs, run through the bar. Everybody was going crazy.
All-time bar night. And Murray, if you've seen the highlight since, the best part is Murray screaming at the Clippers bench, go home. And it's it is the most goosebump. And there's
something cool too about the bubble. I know the players would strongly disagree with this, but there's something cool about he's literally telling them to get out. Like,
literally
voting out of the house.
Was like the big,
dude.
That was the big insult. Then is like leave the bubble.
Leave the bubble.
And I think because what was it that Morris said to Millsap? I hope you're packed your bags already or something.
Yeah.
And I think Clippers players had been saying something to the effect of get ready to go home for like 3 games.
Yep.
And Murray, man, there are a lot of things to say about Murray right now. But one of the things you have to mention when talking, he never misses those moments.
Nope.
To like in the theatrical part. We were ready for this. Go home.
Yep.
The post game interview.
When he feels it.
He senses the moment.
And then game 2 of the Lakers series, man. This one I'm so glad doesn't have to haunt me for the rest of my life. Because one, I just thought that they let Dwight Howard just murder Jokic in that whole freaking series, and it was annoying. But people don't remember how much of a masterpiece Jokic had put on in game 2. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 4 blocks, despite being in foul trouble. And the game was 92-100 with 2 minutes to go. What happened? Jokic scored on back-to-back-to-back-to-back-to-back possessions in 90 seconds to take a lead. An 11-0 Jokic run from down 9 to up 2. Not a Nuggets run, a Jokic run. And it was all on those dudes. And you were just like, my God, here it is. They called dirty fouls on him all game, all games 1 and 2. They wouldn't give him nothing, but he stuck with it, and he's going to win game 2. And now the story's going to change. But Anthony Davis hits the freaking buzzer beater to cancel it. But it was... I say that because it's a forgotten masterpiece. 36-9-4 game. You go to 2021, game 2 versus the Blazers. Jokic had 38 points on 15 of 20 shooting. People don't really remember this year that much, but that because there was no Murray. But Jokic was phenomenal in that entire series, and 38 points is just wild. Only missing 5 shots to get to 38 is nuts. Game 3 is the Austin Rivers game, which is an all-timer.
Austin Rivers.
And then game 5 and 6 were both Jokic masterpieces. 38, 11, and 9 with 4 blocks. Fouls Nurkic out in game 5.
Yep.
And that was the pivotal one.
Yep.
If you recall, the Nuggets dropped game 4 because the freaking a protest inside their hotel.
Yep.
The
Portland moms were out there waking them up.
Unbelievable. So they get absolutely destroyed. Now you're like, well, it all comes down to game 5. And in game 5, they actually Jokic single-handedly drags them across the finish line. And then in game 6, do you remember? The Porter quarter. The number 1 Porter quarter of all time. 22 points in the first period.
Yeah.
And then hits the series winner, right? The skip pass over and
right in front of Carmelo.
Right. And so it was, and a Jokic masterpiece as well. Those games, man, it's underrated. 2021 is an underrated year. That series had a lot of great games. It just ended with 4 blowouts to the Suns.
And it's also fun going through these exercises because there are just more moments for guys than you remember. Like all the guys. Like Porter has had more playoff moments than we remember.
Yep.
Gary Harris factored so heavily into some of the earlier stuff. It's just really fun to relive because it all gets boiled down to Jokic and then maybe Murray, but it's fun to relive the little parts of the great moments as well.
2022 only had 1 game. It was game 4. Jokic dominated. He dominated that whole series, if you recall, against the Warriors. But the only game was that Bones went off in the second quarter. He scored 11, I believe 11 in the second period, and they were all threes.
Yep.
They were in the Bones Highland jerseys.
Yep.
And he had the crowd going nuts here in Denver.
City, baby.
That was just a total vibe. And at the time, like, you knew the Nuggets were going to win the title that year. They didn't have Murray. But it was one of those cool, like, not swept, like you got swept by the Sun, so now you're worried you're going to get swept again. And it was like, not a sweep, baby, at least that.
Let's go.
And then, of course, 2023, game 4 versus the Lakers. Game 1 versus the Lakers and game 4 to me. Actually, screw it. All 4 games against the Lakers were unbelievable games.
This is to me.
They were all
these
S-tier.
are all S tier, and it's really the title. I know it sounds so disrespectful to the whole process, but
game 4 was the title.
Just the Lakers series. Once you swept the Lakers, every Nuggets fan knew it was going to happen for the first time, that they were going to do the whole thing. And but also to me, of all the great many Jokic moments we've had over the years, when you play the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, the spotlight is real big, it's real bright, everyone's watching, and he was fucking flawless.
Game 1 versus the Lakers was where like everyone was like, he's the best player in the NBA. Like, let's just put a period on the end of that sentence. Game 2 was the Murray game where he gets to do this to the crowd because he caught fire in like the 3rd or 4th quarter, and it was just a backbreaker. Game 3, just a tough game from the Nuggets when the Lakers thought they could even the series when they got home. And then game 4 was a 15-point halftime comeback that was just like, for Lakers fans, a train wreck in slow motion that ended with the second greatest punctuation mark, I think, of the era. Only because it happened too early with like 2 minutes to go. But Jokic hitting that fadeaway with 2 minutes to go when no one could score. And you just know the souls left the bodies of everybody in that arena where they were like, This is going to happen? We're really going to get swept by the Nuggets?
Yep.
By the way, yeah.
Who's your dad?
Wait,
That
hold
was
on.
also, they're going to lose to the Nuggets?
They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals and they lost to Denver?
Yeah, and that was the whole crowd, that thought in their head leaving their body as it just went up of like, damn, that's crazy. The Suns, game 1, we're ready for this game as an all-timer, I think.
All-timer.
Games 5 and 6 against the Suns are all-timer butt whoopings just because the Nuggets were reaching a level, so those were a lot of fun. You could even say games 3 and 4. Jokic had a monster triple-double in 4, scores 53 and 3. Like, he had some monster games. And then, of course, the finals. Game 3 against the Heat, to me, we had a debate about which game from the finals to put on. Game 5 wasn't that great of a game, a good defensive battle, but there wasn't like a high moment or that many high moments, crazy performances. Game 3 to me was the quintessential game of the finals. 2 30-point triple-doubles, never been done before. It was the Jokic and Murray or Kobe and Shaq game. You're like, these are 2 all-timers at the top of their game, and nothing the best defense in the NBA can do about them.
Yeah, and that was the best game of the series, but it's more. It says more about the series. Like, it wasn't a great series. Like, it was just the Nuggets just rolled roughshod over the Miami Heat, and so at that point we're like, okay, well, let's pick the most meaningful one, which is where they actually won the title.
But it is really, it is arguably the all-time 1-2 punch game. It's a finals game, and they both posted triple.
No, nobody had done it.
It'll never get that reputation just
Right.
outside of Denver. It just won't, and probably because of who they were playing.
You know what, though? It was, though. Like, watching the game, it wasn't like, oh, the numbers say this. No, they both dominated in this
They did,
methodical way where you're like, they can't do nothing.
In the finals, 2 guys, and they were both 30-point triple-doubles, right?
30-point triple-doubles,
Yep.
I mean, just
Correct.
goodness great. Like, how much better can it get?
Crushing them, yes.
And then this year, I think there was, you could say the Murray game winners were great game winners. And game 2, both of them actually were phenomenal comeback game winners. So there you get that. But I don't think the games were very good. Right. In fact, they were pretty annoying. Game 5 against the Wolves to me was another all-timer. That was one of Jokic's greatest performances he's ever given.
Incredible.
And again, it's just like we were talking about in the bubble Lakers game 2. It's one of those ones that is just going to get washed away. But if you put that on 20 years from now, you put it on YouTube and you say somebody like watch just game 5, they'd be like, is this the greatest player of all time?
Yeah, when you're like, and they're definitely winning this series, by the way.
That's the thing. Like, that game was so dominant by Nikola Jokic. It's unthinkable that they did not win this series.
Unthinkable, man.
Can you pull that last comment up there, Carol? Most recent. Again, first 2 30-point triple-doubles in the same game ever. Not just the finals, any NBA game. They did in the finals.
It was a masterpiece, man. An absolute masterpiece. And if the NBA was better at storytelling, more people than the ones watching this show would know about it.
Yes, this is true. Instead, but they played the Heat.
Well,
you know?
like if that was Magic and like Worthy or Magic and Kareem, that would be the myth. That's
Yeah.
how you would tell the story.
100,000%.
You'd be like, and they were the only ones.
Yeah. The old Magic.
Instead, it happened, and we're like, it's the Heat. All right, we have some super chats. Stray asks, oh, you go.
Astray, I think the biggest concern right now with questions regarding Pickett and Zeke is not if a move is possible, but if it's even being considered at this point.
Oh, come on. Yeah, of course.
Of course,
yeah.
they're being considered. Of course.
They've looked for genies and everything. They
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely they are.
And then finally, Jay, Adam, what was it like to meet Legs for the first time?
Man, it was
brother?
so great to see Legs, man. I didn't get to hang out with him that much, sadly. He had a crazy schedule. I was out there. His family was out there with him as well. But it was really cool. We sat and chatted for maybe half an hour while we were there. I told you guys this, man. We're so lucky that we got Legs because he and I are 2 peas in a pod. Like we could honestly sit for like 8 hours. You know, they have that meme. Guys could just sit around just saying sports athletes' names and do it. Like that's me and Legs with literally anything basketball. We just sit there and talk, and we're 2 peas in a pod. So it was phenomenal to get to see him in person. I will tell you guys, people don't know tall guy culture. I try to tell you about it. You know how like tall guys, you see it in a crowded room, other tall guys standing in line. You see a tall guy kind of make eye contact. Other tall guy thing. When somebody is surprisingly taller than you, can be a little bothersome. I think I bothered Legs. I didn't realize I was taller than him. I thought he was going to be taller.
He didn't like it.
I think it threw it off. What if that's the thing that breaks us up?
Can I tell you something?
Huh.
Tall guy culture is stupid.
Oh, it's so dumb.
Now
of
that I'm
course.
learning about it for the first time,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not jealous of
You
it
thought
at
it
all.
was going to be something cool?
No,
Yeah.
I knew that it
Come
wouldn't
on,
be.
It
But
man.
must,
just
it
like,
must be tough for legs not quite being 6'4". That must suck.
6'5", but come on, who's
Yeah,
counting?
all
All right, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. Hit that like button on the way out.
let's go.
We all silly like the mayor.